Hey guys, BJ the Brave here. Welcome back to the channel, home of the weekly Meta Snapshot, deck guides, and all the Shadowverse Worlds Beyond news you need to know about. Guys, I am hyped for the new set. It's good to be back. It's been off on a little bit of a family holiday, and we are going to be kicking off a wave of content coming your way with the weekly snapshot for week 1 of the new expansion, Infinity Evolved. Now, guys, if you like the sound of that, don't forget to hit the subscribe so you don't miss out on all of the future content. Really appreciate all of the support. And yeah, let's dive straight in, shall we? Okay, so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to basically work through the tier list. Obviously, take it with a pinch of salt. It's been 2 days since the expansion's out, so this is just to give you some ideas about some early power levels. We've got some big tournaments coming up in the next month, so a lot is going to move and shift. But after I've gone through the tier list, I'm going to then show you some highlights of some key decks that you can go ahead and start building towards, or just basically go and test out immediately. Don't forget, by the way, when you're testing out new decks, that you can always go into practice mode and include the AI, so you can get Yudi to actually guide you. This is a feature of this game that I think a lot of people overlook, and I found it actually can teach you some pretty good plays with the deck when you're doing something completely new. So particularly if you're a beginner, that's a little top tip. Anyway, without further ado, let's dive into this week's Meta Snapshot. Okay, so in Tier 4, I've got Stormhaven and Rose Queen combo. Okay, so I'm going to actually start by showing you an example of the Rose Queen combo deck. So let's basically dive into that. Now, this is a deck that a lot of people were excited about trying in the first expansion. It didn't quite work. But we've got some new tools basically to help. And what you're trying to do with this deck is you're basically just trying to control the board, build up fairies, so that at the end of the game you can obviously play the opulent Rose Queen and turn every one of those 1 cost or less into Bramble Bursts. And a Bramble Burst, for those who don't know, is a 1 cost spell that deals 3 damage. And of course, if you have 7 of these, that means you can do 21 damage, so you can burst your opponent down from full health. So the question is, how on earth do we achieve that? How do we get there? Well, when you look at things like the Ambush from Above, which can basically do damage, you know, it can do 2 lots of 2 damage for only 1 cost. I mean, that's phenomenal. We already know the May Journey Elf is really good at removal. And of course, we've got things like the new, where's it gone with? Oh, sorry, we've also got things like Lily, obviously, which is really good at removing and drawing at the same time. But now we've got some really interesting tools that help bring the opulent Rose Queen online. The first one of those tools is Titiana, which is basically her crest is putting a fairy in your hand every turn. This is massive news for trying to make this deck work, guys, because you're just guaranteed a 1-drop every single turn. I do think it is a consideration of putting the 2-drop amulet in, because that does give you the 0 cost, which also can be turned into Bramble Burst, but you can't fit everything in. One of the things that is quite nice in this deck is we've got the new Dwarven Mallet Man. I quite like this card, actually. For a bronze card, I think it's pretty good. Like, it does exactly what you sort of need it to do in this deck, which is just a mid-range unit that can help you deal with the board states, that stabilize a board, trade, without having to use an evolution point. So this also is really nice in that mid-game, just helping you to progress forward. Of course, you still got things like the Glade, which can help you deal with bigger threats. So yeah, overall, this is a really, really fun one. You've even got a copy, 2 copies, sorry, of Limaga, which, if you remember, she actually basically like locks down the board, so it stops them from further expanding the board, and then they can't attack. And that delay tactic is all you need for Rose Queen. So this is a deck I'm definitely going to be playing a bit more this season, because I think it's a lot of fun. But for now, I'm going to say it's Tier 4 until it's proven otherwise. I'm not going to bother with Stormhaven. You kind of know what that looks like. Now, in Tier 3, we've got Earth Rune, Cage Sword, Storm Dragon, and what I'm calling like control / mid-range Abyss, because I'm seeing different decks and different people calling it control, different people calling it mid, but it's basically the version with Cerberus and the new 9-drop as well, which allows you to kind of go into the late game. That 9-drop, by the way, is an absolutely busted card. Now, Earth Rune's really interesting. I actually think the Earth Rune may well actually be higher than tier 3, but I just wasn't feeling brave enough. You know, BJ the Brave wasn't feeling brave enough. You heard it here first, folks. To just go ahead and put it in that higher tier. But my one of my teammates, one of my guild members, Barrick, I'm going to show you a deck he's been working on. He has been on some lengthy win streaks at Diamond with it. So I'm gonna be a bit cautious with this one and call it tier 3 because it's quite a new thing into the meta, but I'm definitely going to show you that deck guide. Now, Cage Sword has diminished a little bit. It's still a decent deck, but I just think there are better sword decks to play now. And similarly, Storm Dragon, I think that Dragon got some really good new tools, and there are some better... basically better versions of Dragon now than just the Pure Storm. But the thing with the Pure Storm is it's still a decent deck for beginners and for quick ladder games, because even the tier 1 decks, like, it can absolutely cheese wins. If you draw the right things with Storm Dragon, you will win. You can absolutely cheese wins. The reason why it's tier 3 is that it's just not quite as consistent. So let me just show you a couple of decks from tier 3, and let's start out with that Earth Rune deck, actually. So this is, as I say, my my guildmate's Barrick. It's his... Barrick was a really top Warpforged player, and he's already kind of master and diamond in Shadowverse. So I kind of wanted to show you this deck because he went on a mad win streak with it. And yeah, he's pretty confident that this deck is very good. I have to say that Norman... I am going to do a full card review, so look out for that. But Norman is definitely a top tier card, guys. This card is phenomenal. I'm really, really liking it, and it's just got so many new tools to sort of bring the thing online. I have put the QR codes here, guys, because I know some of you asked from previous Meta Snapshots just to make sure I've got the QR code on for those who like to get the decks that way. So go ahead and grab that now. So yeah, go and take this one to ladder and give it a whirl. We've got quite a lot of the new cards in here, and Earthright got some pretty good support. So obviously you've got the top end, you've got the Lilanthium, 3 copies of that. So you are obviously going to have to craft quite a few legendaries to get it, but there we have it. Okay, so what else did we have? We had Cage, didn't we? Cage Sword. Yeah, so this is a Cage Sword deck that's been slightly updated with the new cards. The biggest thing really is the addition of Gildaria, the Anathema of Peace. I mean, this card is super good. Don't expect to get Rally 20 by turn 6. It's probably more likely going to be your second or third one. But the thing is that it's a really decent card without the fanfare. But obviously, once you hit that fanfare, Rally 20, if you're new, that means you have to have played 20 followers this game. That's what Rally 20 means. It keeps a tally for you, so you can click on this card at any point, and it will tell you your current rally tally, if you like. So you can kind of keep track of that. But this card goes off, guys, once you've got that Rally 20. You know, being able to clear the enemy board. But even without that, you still get the 2 Steelclad Knights that do have Rush, right? So that's essentially 4 damage worth of Rush. So that's one of the biggest additions, really. And of course, we also have the Odin, which again gives you even more kind of like burn power, attack power whilst dealing with the board as well. I really love Odin. It's one of my favorite cards from the new expansion. So spoiler for when I do my full review. But yeah, there you go, guys. There's the code. That is my Cage deck that I've got for you today. So now let's get back to the tier list. So what have we got in tier 2? So first of all, I promised you that we had some interesting dragon decks, and with the addition of Infinity Beyond, we've seen a lot of new marine cards, and I feel that Ramp Dragon is in a pretty good spot right now. In fact, I think early on, low key, this might be one of the stars of this meta. We'll have to see. We'll have to see, but it plays very well into things like Wardhaven and some of the other new meta decks as well. And it's just got some tools that the set 1, quite frankly, just didn't have. I think Ramp is really good. I'm definitely going to be playing some. I haven't played much Dragon, if I'm honest, in the first season. And I didn't want to do the kind of Storm Dragon. It wasn't my style, but I really love... I used to play a lot of Ramp Druid back in Hearthstone. So for those of you who did that, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I really feel that this deck is now online. So keen to show you that one. Puppet got some really good additions, a few new cards that really help. It was already a top tier deck, and now I think it's not quite tier 1, but it's still a very, very strong deck. And, you know, it's a little bit more straightforward to sort of control the board. We have dropped the Liams from this list. It's become a little bit faster, but I'll show you the deck list. And the big new kid on the block, Ward Haven. Already got a deck guide bagged for you guys. That's coming very, very soon. I'm really enjoying Ward Haven. I think it's a really fun idea. It is a little bit Marmite in the sense that you either love or hate playing both with and against this style of deck. And also in terms of its success. So I think there are some decks that can absolutely deal with the massive walls of ward that you can put up, but there are a lot of other decks that really, really struggle with it. And I think it's a really fun deck. I've been doing a lot of tweaking with this deck, and I've had a few different versions. I do think it will evolve over the coming weeks, but I'll definitely show you a deck. Now, one deck that has burst onto the scene and is definitely one to look out for on ladder. I think that Aggro Abyss is the aggro deck to play. If you want a quick, fast deck aggro, I mean, this deck can win the game before Wardhaven even ties its shoelaces and gets warmed up. I mean, it is quick. You will end games by turn 6, turn 7. It is super fast, and that's what you want from an aggro deck. And a few new tools for Abysscraft have really pushed this deck. It was already a decent aggro deck last season, but I feel like now this is a sort of top tier 2 deck, really pushing and can deal a lot of hurt to some of the tier 1 decks too. So yeah, this is a cool deck. I think if someone was new to the game and they wanted to just like get straight into ranked play and ladder, I think I might recommend Aggro Abyss. Like this is cool. If you like proper aggro, this is the deck for you. And then the Roach Fairy, guys, we're doing it again. Those of you been following the Meta Snapshot know I went on a bit of a journey with Roach Fairy last season, where I started it in tier 2, and by the end of the Legends Rise meta, I actually had it as the #1 deck. Now, I have actually not notched it down one. And I do think that's because of some of the new arrivals. Things like Wardhaven are a really tough matchup for Combo Roach or Roach Fairy. But that said, I will not be surprised if next week this is back in tier 1. The deck is still really solid. It's still really good against the tier 1 decks. And they've actually got a few tools that just give this deck some options now. I think the deck was quite refined at the end of the first expansion, but I think in Infinity Beyond, there are actually quite a few different ways we can play it, so keen to get into that with you. So let's have a look at some of these decks. Okay, so Ramp, let's start with Ramp. So Fenny Ramp, here we go. So one of the really cool additions this season is the Seasoned Merman, that basically the Majestic Mega Lorca. Majestic Mega Lorcas. Now, there are 3 cards that can basically get these out. And a Mega Lorca basically is a 2/2 with Rush, right? Now, this card, I really love the Seasoned Merman, because for 5, you get this 3/3 body, but you also summon 2 Rush body, 2 Mega Lorcas, right, which have Rush. And if you evolve, that then becomes 3 Mega Lorcas, which is 6 Rush damage, plus this guy can obviously attack as a 5/5. This is the 5-drop that Dragon, you know, like all the other classes have these 5-drops, don't they? Whether it's Anangria or whether it's Glade, the Glade guy from Forest, right? Now Dragon have their 5-drop that kind of stabilizes the board. This is a phenomenal card. I really, really love it. You've obviously got the spell where you can just basically summon one, and if you're in Overflow, you actually get a copy of this card back again. So this is a brilliant 2-drop spell. And then the 7-drop is Neptune. This is the gold card. And Neptune, basically on Fanfare, summons 2 copies of Mega Lorca again, just like the 5-drop did. But also it gives you the crest. And the crest says, whenever an allied marine follower enters the field, you restore 1 health. So you actually got some heal now in Dragon as well from this. Not to mention that Neptune actually has Ward. I think this is an awesome card. Bear in mind, we're talking about ramp, guys. So when we say this costs 7, we're probably playing it sooner than that, right? If we hit our ramp, we're probably playing it on maybe turn 6 or turn 5 if we've got the coin. I mean, the combos are just insane with it. So in addition to that, we've also got the Draconic Strike, which basically says select a card in your hand, reduce its cost by 2, deal 3 damage to all followers. Now, Anyone who played Warpforged knows that these cards where you kind of like discount a card, but you're going to play in the future turn is really powerful. I think this is a super good card, guys. Deal 3 deals with the board that turn. Okay, you're not developing the board, but now you're going to get a bomb, right? If you now get your Twilight Dragon for 7, or your Genesis Dragon, or even better, your Fenny, and let's talk about Fenny, guys. Let's be honest, this is the heart of the deck. This card is absolutely hilarious. Like some of the combos. I've seen guys get like 2, 3 of these off in a row and then just do mega chain combos. We all know how powerful Spell Boost Rune was last season. Why? Because it had the #1 mana cheat in the game in Decline. Well, guess what? That's exactly what Fenny is trying to do. It's trying to break the mana system. And now, obviously, if you don't get this till late, it can be a problem. It can feel a bit slow, but not in a ramp deck, right? Again, we're going to be able to play this card early. So I actually think this is a really cool deck, and definitely expect to see a deck guide from me on this coming soon. Okay, what else did we have in Tier 3? Okay, so in terms of the Ward deck, I think there are a couple of versions, but this is the version that I've been running. And as I say, I'm going to do a full deck guide on this, so I'm not going to go into too much now. But needless to say, in the early game, you've got great draw from Serene Sanctuary and Leah. And really what you're trying to do is, and you've got things like Selefa as your stabilizer mid-game, or Unholy Vessel. And then you've got, obviously, Wilbert into Aether, and that's really what you're looking for. Wilbert with an Evolve, getting that crest down, which basically buffs all your ward units, and then you play Aether and all your ward units are buffed. You don't even need to super evolve with Aether, she's pretty good without it. But often what I'll do is play like one without, one with, something like that. And then of course, if they don't clear it, Xian is just tailor-made for this deck. I mean, Xian is she's beautiful. Everyone's talking about, you know, Aether and Wilbert, but I still think Xian is like a 5-star card. I think she's absolutely my favorite Haven card. And after much back and forth, I actually have gone with 1 copy of Darkhaven Grace and 1 Griffin, because I just feel like having that extra wink on is really, really important. And I feel like Odin is a kind of like a Griffin as well, right? He's not quite as much damage, but he can remove something, so pretty good. Now, you can run a second Darkhaven instead of the Divine Thunder. I just absolutely hate having 2 Darkhavens in my hand, because you cannot play 2 with this deck. Some decks you can, but with this deck, you can only play 1. So I actually have a Divine Thunder. I really like it. I find that the not only the destroying the biggest threat, but the 1 damage to other followers, obviously that's good against Forest, but it's also good against Rune now, where you've got the, is it William, the new card that puts the buffed, the barrier golems down, right? Or Amelia in Swordcraft, basically barrier. This deals with barriered units, right? Because of the 1 ping. So I like having 1 and 1 Grace. But if you wanted more consistency for a guaranteed amulet for Griffin, then you could definitely run a second Grace. All right, what are we going to look at next? Let's take a look at Aggro Abyss. Guys, like I said, I'm excited about this deck. I did not play much Abyss last season, and expect to see me playing some of this. All this deck is trying to do, guys, is beat face. You're trying to use all your evolves, all your storm evolves, essentially to go face, put all the pressure on your opponent. You've got bats that heal, so you can win races against your opponent. Even like things like Olivia obviously give you some heal. And then you've got Odin as well in the top end for that kind of just break through a ward and hit face. Now this deck is super, super fast, and definitely a really good one for climbing and cheesing wins on ladder. And last up we had Roach. Now, as I say, Roach, different ways you can play it. Here is one version of the deck that is went on quite an early top winning streak, I found out, and I think there's quite a few different versions of how this deck can be built. And as I say, I've seen some with Odin that work quite well, but this is a pretty good starter for 2. And it's the same, we're trying to do the same thing with Killer Roach. Gardens of Lure is a nice addition where you can essentially fuse cards. One of the problems you had with Forestcraft was you would draw your cards and you would end up milling a lot of cards. But what Gardens of Lure does is it helps you to manage your hand and stop milling while still drawing. So I think this is a great addition for this type of deck. I also really like Ambush from Above. I think, you know, it just allows you to, for very, very cheap, it allows you to control the boards, and that's all you need to do, right? You just need to delay the game until you can get your Roach combo off. And similar thing with Limaga. I don't think you have to play this, but I do think one copy. We often had 1/7 drop, and I think maybe Limaga is actually the best option because, again, she stalls for at least another turn, maybe even 2. So yeah, really, really great. Really, still think this is a really top tier deck, to be honest. Okay, so where does that leave us in terms of tier 1? So in tier 1, I have got Artifact Hybrid, top of the. Let's do it the other way around. Mid-range sword has got some really good additions this patch, this expansion. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. And I also think that Spell Boost and Artifact, whilst they were tier 1 last expansion, they're still tier 1 because they actually receive some absolutely amazing just slot-ins. Like, these are like upgrade decks. They're not new archetypes. They do the same thing that they always did, but they just do it better. They have both received some, in my opinion, almost incredibly powerful tools, and that's what's keeping them tier 1. So I do think that Artifact and Spell Boost are going to kind of define the meta early, and so yeah, let's take a look at a couple of decks. So let's start with the mid-range sword. Okay, so mid-range sword, Odin. Here we go. So there's a few different ways that you can do this. Now, there are versions that run the 8-drop Amalia, but I feel like now with the introduction of Gildaria that you kind of want to be a little bit faster, really. And this deck is super fast. I do think that Prim is a really nice addition. We were struggling, like, mid-range sword was always a bit weak at the 3-drop count, like as a proactive 3-drop, and what Prim does is essentially give you almost like card draw, because it gives you an extra card. You play Prim on 2, and then you play the 3-drop that comes out of it, what's she called, Nonja. You get to play this the turn after, which is a perfectly reasonable 3-drop. Or, obviously, we can play it with a Flash Step as well, so that we can actually get full use of our mana curve there. So I do think that this deck is actually really great. Seria and Rose are actually a really nice combo, because if you've played Seria and weakened the board, Rose can come on and then kill something, or you can use that as a turn 5 combo if it's like later in the game. And once again, we have Gildaria. So we already talked about her earlier, so we won't go over it again, but really powerful here. You've still got your powerful players in your Amelia, not Amalia. And of course, your Zirconia, if you're looking for that Evo early on. Gino's still one of the best kind of like non-Evo, kind of like non-legendary cards in the game, I think. And I do think that Odin is a very, very strong addition to this deck, giving you that additional reach, or potentially setting up a turn 9 Albert, like you could Odin the turn before, for example, and do it that way, or you could even do it the other way around. So yeah, give this deck a shot. There is the QR code. Now, how have the top 2 decks been upgraded? Well, let's start with Spell Boost. So here's the Spell Boost deck, and as you can see, a couple of things that have been added to the deck. The first one is Pascal's Dance, which says gain an Earth sigil, gain crest, Pascal's Dance. At the end of your turn, draw a card, and then Earthright 10, double the attack and defense of all allied foes in the field. Now, the thing about this card is, like, you really don't actually mind that much whether you even get Earthright 10 off or not, because essentially just getting the, you know, the draw is allowing you to kind of like cycle through your deck, whilst also giving you that extra sigil, which then gives you use for just a few of the Earth sigil kind of like techs, if you like. I don't know if I want to call this like a full hybrid deck yet, but there's definitely just a little bit more use of the sigil. Remember, we were running 3 Witch Brews last season, but actually you didn't really have much payoff other than the Sage-like teachings. Well, now you've actually got a little bit more payoff, so let's have a look at that. Well, the first one we've got is Burgent. Now, this Burgent card, guys, oh my god, it's so annoying to play against. It says summon 2 copies of Onion Patch, and Onion Patch is a rush 1/1, which basically spell boosts every time it strikes. And guess what? You get a crest from this thing if you evolve, which is a fantastic alternative to Anangria for your evolve mid-game. And then basically every single turn you get an onion patch. So you're guaranteed getting spell boost every turn. I think this is an insane card. Like, this is awesome, and it's very fun to play with, a bit frustrating to play against. And then last but not least, you've also got the addition of Norman. Norman is one of the best cards in this expansion, as far as I'm concerned. Now, it does say Fanfare Earthright 1, so it's one of those that's a payoff for building your Earthrights, and that's, again, why the card, the 2-drop that we showed earlier, has been added, just to ensure that we get this. Basically, you can select a mode, and it says Summon a Guardian Golem and give it Barrier, which is a very, very powerful option, particularly because if you then evolve with this card, you can do it again. It will cost you another 1 Earthright, but you can have 2 barriered up, warded golems. These things have ward up. They're a 3/3. I think that is a really difficult board to deal with, and often you can't then touch Norman, who is then just going to hit for face, which is terrifying, right? Because, you know, if this guy's evoed, he's like a 7/7, so you really need to be able to deal with him. But it's so hard to deal with him and the board. The other thing is, if you're playing against Forest, for example, Forest are going to try and chip Rune down, and then they finish you off with a Roach combo when you've got, like, you know, somewhere between 12 and 14 health left. Norman can just use double restore and put 8 health back on the leader. And of course, like, if you need the draw 3, which I think that's probably the one you'll use the least, to be honest, but I just love the flexibility of this card. It's a phenomenal card. It reminds me a little bit of Sylvia, but I don't know, it might even be better. Like, it's definitely going to be one of the highlights of this expansion. And last but not least, we have the artifact. Now, I'm going to show you an artifact deck here, which is very, very pure. We've seen different variants of this deck. There's the code. But this goes all in on the artifact. And it's also got the option to be a lot more aggressive than previous builds. So what do I mean by that? Well, things like the artifact catapult, enabling you to get out a 5-drop, basically like a beta, for example, to do 3 damage to enemy face. You can get that out earlier. Triple Doomright Resurgence, so you can play like one of the, I was going to call him a flanker. The 5 attack, rush, that's it. Plus like a removal, or again, the beta, so you can do damage. This is, having 3 of these is now very, very viable. You've also got this card, which is fantastic. So Carnelia, basically given an ability called Can't Be Destroyed by Abilities, right? And the thing is about that is, say you put this on your beta, every time you copy your beta and get a free one on the board, it gets this special ability that it can't be destroyed by abilities. So this is a phenomenal upgrade. It really, really is. So an ability is like, you know, Sylvia, for example, she comes on and she can target something and kill it, right? Well, now you can't do that to those protected units. And then last but not least, really, is Karula. And Karula is essentially another, you can think of it as another copy of Alouette, but instead of needing to use an evolve, she can just do it on Fanfare, or he can just do it on Fanfare. I can't get over this card. Like, can you remember the days, guys, when all we had to worry about was Alouette? Can you remember those days? And now you've got this guy. This is, yeah, tier 1, guys. Probably the deck to beat right now is this. Like, it is so busted. You can put so much damage on quick, and then Archetypes just coming down and finishing it. It's super good. So there's the deck guide. And yeah, so that's my tier list for week 1. Again, like I said, take it with a pinch of salt. It's still very early. I hope you enjoyed that. Hit that like, a thumbs up below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We've got a whole wave of content coming your way. I'm BJ the Brave. It's been my pleasure, and happy to be back. See you guys in the next one.